We're all ready? Good. Okay, here we go. Let's go ahead and call the meeting of the Yosemite Community College District Board of Trustees for Wednesday, May 9th, 2018 to order. If I could get you all, please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Ready? Begin. Okay, thank you. The only thing we have to report out on closed session for item 3.2 is that trustee Leslie Beggs recused herself with respect to item 2.3, negotiations with YFA. We'll now move on to item 3.3, approval of the minutes of the April 11, 2018 Board of Trustees regular meeting. Okay, we have a motion to approve by trustee Rojas and seconded by trustee Viss. Is there any further discussion, comments? Seeing or hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carried. Move on now to item 3.4, approval of the minutes of the April 17, 2018 Board of Trustees study session. And I'll give everyone a moment, and then I'll entertain a motion to approve that as well.
I move approval of those minutes.
Okay, moved by trustee DeMartini.
Second.
Second by trustee Rojas, I believe. Any further discussion, comments?
I'll be abstaining, so I wasn't present.
Okay, abstention by trustee Hallinan, do noted on the minutes.
I'll do the same.
And
Abstain.
abstain by trustee Beggs, you weren't there, correct? Okay, and I would just like to add, I appreciate staff putting that together on such short notice, but I also really appreciate Lisa Riggs, the head of the nursing program, for putting together a great presentation, and her other nursing program instructors that were there as well. It was a really good presentation, and I know the board that was there really appreciated it, so I want to say thank you for that. Okay, we have a motion and a second, 2 abstentions. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carried. Move on now to item 3.5, public comment. I have 3 public comment cards for members to speak on items not on the agenda. And the first one is Bill Anelli. Hope I got that right.
So thank you for allowing me to speak to you tonight. Just want to make a couple comments. One, I want to say, make a comment about the teaching load. So I teach about class sizes. I teach philosophy. I've been teaching philosophy at Vanessa Junior College for the past 12 years. And I've just passed out to you a sheet in which I've kind of detailed what it means to do what we ought to be doing by our students. In addition to teaching at Vanessa Junior College for the past 12 years, I also was on the board of the American Association of Philosophy Teachers. I presented numerous times on pedagogy at conferences of the American Philosophy Association and the American Association of Philosophy Teachers. Through my experience with that, I've carefully read books like Understanding by Design by Grant Wiggins and Jay McTighe. And this details how we improve our courses, not just classroom management, but in terms of how we better design our courses. We have a journal, Teaching Philosophy, that I read assiduously. There's works like Susan Ambrose, How Learning Works, 7 research principles for teaching. D-Think, creating significant learning experiences. I brought this knowledge to MJC and started for a one-year project, a faculty learning community, where 7 of us met every 3 weeks for 2 hours, where we shared syllabi to figure out how we could better teach our students. Now, we know from the research that our students are relatively underprepared, and we know from our research that the best import is the instructor relationship to the student. In the humanities, that means that we have to read the thoughts of our students. We have to read their writing. It means that for students to develop in terms of their reading comprehension, or things in philosophy like argument analysis, they need fast, accurate, precise feedback from faculty. So the upshot of all that pedagogy stuff I just showed you is that for students to make the progress they need to make, especially in the humanities, they need a lot of feedback from instructors, right? Now, the sheet I gave you is our situation right now with a 5-5 load. I won't go through every point here, but basically, before we even get to lecture prep or assignment prep or grading, we've already spent 30 hours a week. 15 hours in the classroom, 5 hours office hours, 5 hours committee work, 4 hours email. And then that's not including course data input, course management. So if you look in terms of labor hours, already 30 hours. Now, after that, there's assignment and lecture prep. Yeah, there's a lot of variability from instructor to instructor and course to course, of course. However, if you want to keep up with the scholarship in your field, including pedagogy, if you want to make course corrections from week to week based on class discussions, you need to put in at least 3 to 10 hours a week adjusting your classes. You can't just repeat the same thing from semester to semester, to year. So now we're up to 33 to 43 hours a week. Now we get to grading. If you teach a 5-5 load, which universities do 2-2, 2-3, maybe a 3-3 load. I don't know why it's 5-5. We do a 5-5 load.
Would you define what you mean by that?
By a 5-5 load, yeah. It means that you're teaching in the humanities and philosophy 5 3-unit courses a semester. 5 courses. So a 5-5 load, I'm thinking in terms of one class that's 40 students. I have 5 of those. Right? So I have 200 students. Yes, they drop out, as some drop out during the course, right? During the course of the semester. So that is, so roughly here it is 150 to 225 students a semester. That's what I teach. Now, given that the students, I need to connect to my students. It doesn't just happen in the classroom. I need to read their writing. Think about what they said. Think about what I think they're trying to say. Write something that they're going to understand. Think about the feedback so that when I spend time writing on their paper, I know that they read that and they somehow, so maybe rough drafts, maybe a series of rough drafts would be good. Now, it'd be great to spend 20 minutes per student per week. If you do the math on that, 200 students times 20 minutes, that's 60 hours a week. Add that to the close to 40 already, now we have a 100-hour week. If we do 10 minutes per student per week, we have 30 hours added. If we do 5 minutes per student per week, now 5 minutes, what can you do in 5 minutes? I can skim it. Right, good job. And if it's an online class, accreditors may not like that, for good reason, I think. So the ideal situation is, what we ought to be doing is 100 hours a week. That's 16.7 hours a day, 6 days a week. So I consider it's kind of like joining the priesthood. You know, it's a state-sponsored monk if we do our job and really connect to students. Of course, there's all kinds of clever ways to try to economize that. No one can do this because teaching in the classroom is also psychologically exhausting. You're performing 15 hours a week performance. So I'm strongly against increasing class sizes, right? That's where that's coming to. It just means that we already are swimming upstream. It means we can even do less in terms of careful, thoughtful feedback for our students, which they need to progress, and so many of our students have so many needs beyond just the cognitive. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Next we have Yolanda Peterson.
Hello, I'm Yolanda Peterson. I'm math faculty at MJC. I had also previously taught 20 years as an adjunct at MJC before assuming full-time work. I'm not the sort of person to say increase faculty salaries for any and every reason. In fact, in 2010, I emailed everyone in the district offering to take a cut in pay for the greater good. At that time, the greater good was to preserve the jobs of 8 tenured faculty and the programs they represented who had been terminated. Okay. But today, I believe that the greater good is for the district to make an offer to the faculty that shows respect for our contributions. MJC faculty pay is the lowest of the colleges in our cohort, yet productivity at MJC is among the highest. For example, among the math faculty, the ratio of full-time equivalent students taught per math faculty is higher than at any of the other colleges in our cohort. There are 18 math faculty at MJC. The median number of teachers needed to teach the same number of students would be 24 at the median college. And at the cushiest college, where they teach the smallest number of students per faculty, it would require 44 of those faculty members to do the same work that we 18 faculty do here at MJC. Receiving the lowest pay for the greatest amount of work means that many experienced and qualified instructors are lured elsewhere. While retirements of older faculty are normal, in the past 4 years, the math department has lost 4 full-time faculty under the age of 45. This means that out of 18 math professors, there is not a single tenured faculty member who is younger than 45 years old. The new untenured faculty have risen to assume duties that are typically performed by those with 5 to 15 years of experience. While these faculty attend trainings and conferences, they sometimes hear things like, "You're heading subcommittees and writing initiatives and you're not even tenured? Wow, that's really impressive. And here's my card, just in case you decide..." I won't finish that sentence. Keeping quality faculty here at MJC requires a willingness to pay commensurately with other colleges. This keeping of experienced faculty who are making essential contributions is the greater good that I'm speaking for today. I would encourage the district not to draw out negotiations too long in the hopes of squeezing a few more students into the classroom or eking out a few more dollars. I've been to enough flea markets to know that when negotiators say it's ugly, that after the deal is made, they're going to say it's gorgeous. But this long drawn-out negotiations process has had a demoralizing effect on the faculty, as we are continually told, you must increase your productivity because you are inadequately productive when the numbers speak otherwise. Moreover, recent legislation, AB 705, has a fall 2019 implementation date. It requires that tremendous work must be completed before October, where the curriculum deadlines, when curriculum deadlines occur. Completed redesign must be submitted by this October deadline, less than 5 months away. Without an acceptable contract, the motivation for faculty to perform this necessary work is very low. But without redesign of these essential math and English courses, the courses in the 2 biggest departments will not be in compliance with the law, which is to be implemented in 2019. This spring, YFA encouraged professors to accept students according to the contract in their classes, not numbers above, not below. As a result, the number of full-time equivalent students who were taught dropped from 5,900 in the previous year to 5,100 this year. While that drop of 800 students may feel like a negative, the positive take on this is that those 800 full-time students from the previous year had been taught by faculty who were willing to go above and beyond the requirements of their contract because of the relationship that they had with the students in the district. Okay. When we are treated with respect, MJC professors can and do go above the contract because we love our work, our students, and our community. It will take time to regain trust, but if you show us a contract that shows respect to us, you are likely to receive much more than you pay for.
Okay, next we have Susan Halsey.
Good evening, thank you. That's a hard one to follow. I have to agree with everything these two have said. My name is Suzanne Halsey, and I teach chemistry here at MJC. And I have to tell you, I never liked unions. My father was a non-union general contractor, and the union tried to force him to join the union, and it left a very bitter taste in my mouth, horrible, horrible memories. But I've learned that unions actually do have their place, and I do believe that the YFA is necessary to try to get the faculty what we deserve, and it's in the best interest of the faculty and of the students. So we're paid for 42.5 hours per week. I spend about half of that time in class or in my office hours. I spend another half of that time preparing for class, writing, grading exams, quizzes, worksheets. I spend another half of that time, this is a third half at this point, I'm not very good at math, I guess, and this equates to at least 65 hours a week, and that's on a small week. Okay, then we have committee work and all those other things that we do on top of it. I am scheduled every semester for at least 3 chemistry labs a week. It really angers me that the lab time for all the science and math classes is paid at only 75%, while all other labs across the campus are paid for 1-to-1. Okay, they're paid hour for hour. An email containing a message to the YCD community sent from the Public Affairs Office on April 18th stated that the district proposes standardizing workloads across all departments. This is fabulous. It's long overdue, and I totally agree. However, the proposal further suggests that using a standardized 75% prorating factor on laboratory hours would be correct. Then the justification for this is that almost all of the labs already have less students than the lectures do. Okay. The further justification is that most of the labs already are paid at 75%. Well, if you look at it, most of the labs are in the sciences. So of course they're paid at the 75%. Okay. I completely agree that all the labs should be paid the same, but they should be at a 100% at an hour for hour time. Science labs are very labor intensive. They take the full attention of the instructor. We don't sit and twiddle our thumbs. A typical 3-hour lab period consists of pre-lab instructions, ensuring that the students understand and follow their procedures. That's a tough one sometimes. And that students don't harm themselves or others. We must constantly be on the lookout for fires, for chemical spills, for broken glassware, for minor injuries during any given lab period, and that's true across most of the science labs. Students have many questions that need to be answered. Once the lab is complete, it averages at least another 20 or 25 hours each and every week to just grade those lab reports. We check calculations, we check data analysis, we check conclusions. Yes, we have to read all those words that they're trying to write, just like Professor O'Neilla's words. For a 3-hour lab, we're paid 2.25 hours. We're therefore paid 6 3/4 hours for 9 hours of contact time every week. With very few exceptions, labs last the full 3 hours. And then we have the 20 or 30 hours of grading that follows outside of lab. Because labs are only paid at 75%, my 3 sections of a 5-unit class aren't a full load. I have 15 contact hours with the students from these 3 sections, plus the 5 hours of office hours. Office hours are fully utilized by the students. Chemistry's not a very easy subject, but I must pick up a second class to achieve a full load. The overload leaves less time to interact with individual students and to give them the one-on-one attention that our community college students so critically need. Chemistry is a new language to most students, and many of our students are also English language learners. They really need the instructor time. If this isn't enough, the district refuses to fully compensate the faculty according to the contract. I think you're hearing the same thing from all of us. We're working under a contract that expired 2 years ago, and we're at the bottom of the range for our agreed-upon cohort. The faculty are the bread and butter of the college. Without us, there'd be no students. Without the students, there's no college. A good business takes care of its most valued assets. These assets should be the faculty and the students. Our goal, after all, is education.
Is there anyone else that wishes to speak during public comment? Okay, seeing, yes, sir? Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I don't have any prepared comments, but listening to the previous comments, I just wanted to share my perspective. I'll keep it brief. I teach industrial controls in a lab that I built. I installed the equipment, I purchased equipment, I maintain the equipment. We run facilities in CTE that we maintain. For example, next fall I'm expected to come and teach some control device classes, and I can't do that unless I spend my summer repairing the equipment that needs to be repaired. It's just the way it is. If I don't do it, we won't teach. And you know, when it comes to labs time, I'm on deck to an even greater extent during, you know, in a classroom environment, a teaching environment where we work with lethal voltages. There is no downtime. And it's a great deal of responsibility to maintain facilities. We run budgets, repairs, cleaning equipment, cleaning solutions in technical education, uniforms and so forth. We run facilities. We're not just classroom teachers. And I think that sometimes that gets overlooked. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, thank you all for your comments. We'll move on now to item 4.1, the Board Finance Committee. There was no meeting of the Board Finance Committee this month. So we'll move on now to item 4.2, the Board Policy Committee report, and I'll turn that over to Trustee DeMartini.
Thank you. The committee met on Monday, and we spent a great deal of time working on the first reading that will come later this evening. We ran out of time to thoroughly discuss the field trip and excursions, the last proposed policy revisions. So it is the opinion of the committee that we should postpone that first reading until we have a time to discuss it, which would be next month. The details, some of the suggestions that the policy committee made are on your desk that Connie has passed out, and we'll discuss those when we get to that portion of the agenda. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions for trustee DeMartini? Okay, we'll move on now to reports and information items. Item 5.1, the culinary collaboration presentation. And this is Columbia College and MJC culinary collaboration, Klaus Tiegenberger and Pedro Mendez. Or no, I guess we're,
But I'm Brian Sanders, and the Vice President of Instruction, and have the opportunity to share with you today, along with Klaus, some of the, I think, really positive things that we're doing using some of our strong workforce funding. And we have
so this is going to cover MJC as well, Brian?
It is.
Okay,
Well,
thank you.
it's interesting, you'll find, I hope, because we're talking today about a Columbia College hospitality management program extension on the campus of Modesto Junior College. So many of us watched, and it was referenced earlier today, as some of the faculty were laid off in 2011. And one of those areas that was unable to be continued at that time was the hospitality curriculum that was here in the John Muir building right over here in Modesto Junior College. So just as a quick overview, our strong workforce program, the basic tenet is that we need to be creating more and better CTE. And for the first round of funding, we kind of concentrate on the better. And now they've said, all right, turn that around. We want to see more CTE. So we ponder to ourselves, how do we make more CTE? So in our area, we're going to be partnering with MJC to build this, remodel the culinary facility right here on campus. This is an extension of the Columbia College program. You guys are familiar with the nursing program. So there's a site at Columbia College, and the instruction takes place here for the lectures, and that's transmitted up the hill. There's laboratory courses, there's service in our local hospital. All of the FTEs are associated with Modesto Junior College. And we're really happy for that. It works really well. Our students take general education courses at Columbia College, and then they get into the nursing program and take the nursing courses with Columbia, or with Modesto. Moving on down the line, we're going to be starting this curriculum program with a baking certificate once the facility is remodeled, and then we're going to see how that expands into additional culinary arts. We're working on establishing a pathway that students can get a preliminary certification here and then come to Columbia College for more advanced coursework and get those higher level certifications and degrees from us directly. And then once this facility is remodeled, we'll have the opportunity to use it here, Modesto Junior College folks will, for whatever purpose fits their need. And I've got some suggestions for that later on. So here's what we looked at before.
So these are the current facilities which were mainly used as a storage area since 2011. When we worked first in there, it was impossible to even walk through the building. So we looked at the adjourned classroom, which is when you stay in front of the building on the left-hand side, which seats up to 30, 36 students comfortably. And in the past areas, it was used not only for classroom instructions, but also to provide a service to the larger community by providing the output, which is the edible output in the program, to the campus community and beyond.
Tell them about the orange, what those little cubbies there
So
are.
of course, this came out of home economics a long time ago. And the way it was designed, especially on the bottom right-hand side pictures, they were all done in little cubicles where people had their own stovetops and they had their own little cupboards with all little kinds of tools in there. And that's no longer suitable. If you look at the remodel we did at Columbia College, we want to use it as a teaching facility versus a production facility, and therefore it requires a reconfiguration of the existing space.
So here's what we're doing with the space. In the main part, which is currently the kitchen, we're going to be creating a lab space and changing the orientation, really gutting that whole home economics area and having a series of student stations. They're like nice big wide work tables pointed towards an instructor station, which you see on the left-hand side there. There's also an adjacent classroom space that we can use for the lecture portion of these courses. And once that's remodeled, it can be used for other lecture classes throughout MJC's need. There's a series of stoves and ovens that are already in the facility that have to be pulled out, and then we're going to put them back in, of course. There's wash and prep areas. Those have to be expanded as part of this. There's going to be some concrete work and those kinds of things. And there's refrigeration in the corner, and we plan to expand that with some additional equipment purchases. Overall budget for this out of our strong workforce funding is about $240,000. Roughly 200 of that is the construction, and then another 40,000 in equipment. And we're in that ballpark. I think it's actually a little higher than that at this point. So our program of study is?
So we thought it would be very wise and strategically done so that we're going to start with an introduction to hospitality as a career, and then follow this by serve safe and sanitation, which is a requirement for everybody who wants to work in food service, as well as the basics of baking and pastry arts, which everybody loves. Even though there may not seem to be as many jobs available, you will be surprised how many people just do that to learn that skill. And then it leads into a degree of completion, which is a skills attainment certificate as baker.
And then additional courses that you'll see there, the restaurant math, which is exciting. Your answers. And then the baking beginning and advanced courses and a dessert course. So you can imagine, those of us who were on the West Campus back when the facility was open, it was great to just come over there. You can imagine some outlet for some quite tasty yummies as we're getting done with these courses. So what else? What kind of demand is there for this program? As we put forward funding for a strong workforce program, we have to ensure that there's actually jobs available for it and that there's demand for the classes themselves. This graph illustrates 2000, sorry for the small font there on the left, 2009-10 at the top, and then 2010-11. You saw that we lost a little bit of enrollment there at Columbia College. Also back in 10-11 and 2009-10, there was the green bars, which were the Modesto student enrollments. And so that provided some evidence that there was demand for classes in Modesto, just wasn't enough to sustain the program at that time. The other thing that we've noticed here is a decline in enrollments and FTS generation at the Columbia College facility itself. You can kind of see that, how the bar is just moving over there towards the left. Yes, last year in 2016-17, we were in remodel. So all of those FTEs were earned at an offsite church, tiny kitchen facility. And now we're back on the upswing. And that's my little red triangle. Columbia facility has been remodeled. We've increased our FTS. We're actually adding a second faculty member as also part of this Strong Workforce Initiative. And then we're expanding the facility here. Are you aware that we bring all of the prison chefs from up and down the Sierra Nevada fire camps to the Vallecito fire camp, and the culinary faculty go and train them on how to prepare food safely and effectively, and then those chefs then get shipped back out to all the different camps. So isn't that a cool way for us to serve the community and actually serve up and down California? Another area, an associated area of the curriculum is nutrition. So nutrition as generally a lecture class, and that's what these enrollments reflect. At Columbia College in the top, those are our nutrition, it's a Bio 50 class. Down here below is the Nutrition 219 at Modesto Junior College. It's a general education class. We have all these nurses though, all of the students who come to us who want to be nurses. And we don't have enough slots in the nursing program to actually meet the needs of all the students who qualify. So when I was Dean of Sciences, and now as I've been Vice President at Columbia, what other outlets do we have where students who've learned all about how people function, anatomy, physiology, microbiology, chemistry, how do they have other opportunities? And a hospital nutritionist is another opportunity. So we're expanding. Modesto added a course in food laboratory, and of course they don't have a food laboratory, except that when we're done, they will have a food laboratory. And then at Columbia, we're also going to be adding that same nutrition with lab and coupling those classes together. So job opportunities, if you look at the bottom number, that's kind of the big one. Over the next period of time, between now and 2021, we expect about 3,000 new jobs amongst restaurants and grocery stores. Restaurants and grocery stores, or the grocery stores, you know, are producing more and more prepared foods for customers. So that's an important area for us to grow. And then as we look at the kinds of jobs that are available, there's a whole variety of them. How many of these jobs have you held?
Well, there's a whole bunch out there, as Brian said correctly, and especially when restaurants go into the artisan field and want to specialize themselves in, you know, restaurant desserts. And the first job many of us had and will have, and our kids will have, is in hospitality and is in food service. And by us providing the students with basic skills, it gets them right into employment. Even though we have many students who do this to find employment during their college career and pursue something else at the tail end. So there's plenty of opportunities available.
Overall, we're seeing about a 9% increase in jobs over the next 5 years. You can see a variety of 391 additional jobs just as restaurant cooks, and you could follow the numbers down there. A total of 938 jobs on this sheet. It kind of depends. This was looking at the Northern Central Valley and Motherlode. There's so many resources out there that we look at. Sometimes the numbers don't exactly agree, but they all do agree that there's going to be more of those. So what else can we use this facility for? Well, I mentioned the nutrition lab courses already. Community education. I once took a how to make pad thai course with my daughter through community education at MJC. Had a great time, but where would we do that now? Well, I don't know, but in the future it's going to be right over here. So I'm coming back for round 2. Student engagement experiences. This was an interesting opportunity. Some of our Columbia colleagues came down and hosted by a wonderful presentation from Modesto Junior College on some of the student engagement activities they're doing. And Chad Redwing was talking about how, with a class of students, he prepared a meal. And to do that, they drove all the way up to Sonora and went to a little kitchen that's up there where they do kind of group cooking events. Well, that's not something that can be replicated on any kind of a large scale. But if it's right here on the MJC West campus, that could be used for a class to go in and work together in some kind of an event like that. Contract education, we mentioned ServSafe earlier. It's something that every employee in food service has to recertify in every couple of years, and then who knows what else.
There's also an opportunity for the industry to come in to do their recertification as needed and open it up for team building and in soft skills, teaching etiquette dinners.
And then just to close, we wanted to share with you a couple of additional projects that are going that are shared between the college. They're called regional projects. Our region is our 2 college districts, so it makes it a little easier to work together. Most of these are coordinated by Jenny Abbott in the back. We are expanding the Certified Nursing Assistant program. So there's going to be a cohort at Columbia College hosted out of MJC. The welding program is going to be tied in together. We're not exactly sure how this one's coming together yet, but we don't have enough welding students to run a full welding program at Columbia College. So we're going to have the same coursework at both places, and the students will start at Columbia and finish up their degrees down here in Modesto. And then we're working on dual enrollment and community initiatives. Just yesterday and today I've had 2 meetings talking about CCAP classes in the high schools and courses in the prisons and how to expand those. We're funding those through Strong Workforce at both locations, and we've, as you saw recently, a presentation on our expanded career centers. So that's the end of our presentation. Do you have any questions for us?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
With your permission, these 2 are scheduled to travel to Dubai representing our institution. I'd like to hear what they're going to do since you're up there.
So the idea with Dubai is to increase our student body by make course offerings, especially in hospitality, available to international students. The idea is that we have high productivity lecture classes, which are hosted here or hosted on our campus at Columbia, and then via IT mode transferred to the different participants in that country. And then the lab component would be offered through OJT, on-the-job training, at different sites with oversights by qualified instructors who fulfill our minimum requirements. We do similar things currently in our apprenticeship initiatives in hospitality, where we have a cohort of about 40 or 50 people in each lecture class. And then in the lab classes, and as our lab is rather small and cannot accommodate 50 people at a time, half the class, or at least the apprentices, go out on their job site and earn a living wage while they're going to school, while they're getting training through on-the-job training.
Are you going over there to promote your program?
Try to connect up with potential employers who will employ apprentices into their operations, as they have a big need for qualified workforce. And we deliver here the lecture part or the lecture component of it through, again, the use of IT.
Well, it's interesting. Good luck.
Thank you.
Just to comment on that,
Yeah.
it's an interesting environment. It's a very unique idea, pushes the envelope, and so there's going to be sort of the mechanics of whether we could make it work through technology. Can we build the relationships to establish these teaching environments in an apprenticeship type mode there? And then can we navigate the regulatory environment that we live in California's community colleges to where this is going to be functional? It's going to be an interesting week or so. I got way more questions than answers at this point.
So two things real quick. This is great. Don't forget our juvenile commitment facility here next door. They have a training program there for juveniles. So make sure we reach out to juvenile probation, because this is a great segue for those students that want to turn, or, wards of the juvenile system that want to turn their lives around. And they can start there, get their initial training there, and come right over here and be productive and turn their lives around. This is great. This is great.
We're doing something similar up in Pine Grove at the Juvenile Retention Center. In this case, we training forestry and natural resources, especially fire introduction class. And we just finished our first semester up there, and there's a demand for much more training to be done, which is really then gives the participants an opportunity to have an exploration of potential career choices there.
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you. Thank you both very much. And before we move on to the association reports, I forgot to mention this earlier. Trustee Hallinan had to leave. His son is getting a scholarship award, and there's an event this evening that he wanted to be present for, so that's why he left the meeting early. So congratulations to his son. We'll move on now to association reports, item 5.2, and student senate activity reports.
Good evening, members of the board. I'm Harloveline Hundal, new ASMGC president-elect for the year 2018-2019. Starting with the past events, this past school year, ASMG served free lunch to approximately 10,000 students. On April 18th, Campus Life held its annual gala. Over 100 students were recognized for their academic achievements, participation in the Project Lead, campus clubs, and more. On April 19th, Camp Night was held for students to get extra help and study done before exams and finals, and more than 200 students attended. On April 20th, ASMGC volunteered at the luncheon, which was held to celebrate our graduates. On April 27th, graduation was held, and over 600 graduates walked the stage. 9 out of 20 ASMGC members graduated and are transferring to a four-year university, including UC Davis, Santa Barbara, and Irvine. Additionally, 11 out of 20 ASMGC members finished this past year with more than 3.0 GPA. Currently, ASMGC is working on bringing fresh new ideas to continue to help our student body effectively for the upcoming fall semester while getting ready for the summer training. As a new president-elect, I'm looking forward to keep you updated regarding all the ASMGC events. Any questions?
Any questions?
Just smile. Okay, we don't bite, okay? We appreciate your report.
And congratulations on being president.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, we'll move on now to or is there any other student senate activity reports? Our student trustee is not here this evening, but I want to make sure to extend that offer to anyone else. Okay. Moving on now to California School Employees Association report.
Good evening. Sherry Suarez, First VP. I'm stepping in for Debbie tonight as she's on vacation. I wanted to read something to you that's kind of been really getting to me these last few weeks. So I wrote it down so I could articulate what I've been feeling. I've been reviewing some documents over the last few days, and a common theme that I have found in documents like our mission statements, our vision statements, is that we are saying in those documents what we are doing here at the college and the district. In reading those documents, a word kept coming to my mind. The word is trust. Trust is such an important part of our daily lives. We need to have trust within our families, in both our home life and our work life. We are currently experiencing a lack of trust throughout our nation, in both, and if you just turn on the TV and watch the news, we all see it. We will also experience this lack of trust within our work lives. This is evident in meetings that I have attended, emails received, and conversations that I have. And I think this is very unfortunate. The old saying, a house divided against itself cannot stand, is a very profound and true statement. We work at an institution that we are going to be celebrating 100 years soon, and that house needs to stand strong, especially with all of the challenges the community colleges are facing with funding issues, initiative issues, and workload issues. I've had conversations with people from all constituents groups, administrators and leadership, faculty, and classified professionals. And the common thing that we all express is that we are here for the students. And I believe that. However, we are all working independently to that goal. That is where I believe we are falling short of the goal. We need to work together. We just finished up a couple of weeks ago with our spring semester and had the largest number of graduating participants in the history of MJC. For that, we should all be celebrating together. But somehow that accomplishment is being overshadowed by the negative conversations. Trust. I would like to challenge each and every one of us who are employed by the YCC district to look within ourselves and at the abilities we have to bring to the table and change the culture. It's time that we stop saying what we do, but we start doing what we say. Thank you.
Okay, next we have the faculty representative to the board, and Alan McKissick could not be here this evening, and I was told that, I was told Jim was gonna do it, but, oh, Aaron, okay.
He said I could do Alan's voice better.
Okay,
So this is from Alan. Since I last spoke to you, I attended, along with a number of you, MJC's commencement ceremony. As you know, the event was a resounding success, well attended by faculty and an extraordinary number of our graduates, friends, and family members. The efforts of my predecessor, Michelle Christofferson, continue to add to the success of our graduation ceremonies through such efforts as a large collection of loaner caps and gowns. I regret that I cannot attend tonight's board meeting, but I recently spoke to 2 board members, and I hope to confer with all other board members over the summer months. I also spoke with Chancellor Young, and I was encouraged by his focus on inclusiveness and improved communication among the constituencies that serve our district. His knowledge of the community college system and his creative approach to problem solving boosted my own optimism. Earlier this week, I attended the Board Policy Committee meeting in which I was impressed by trustee members' background research and attention to detail. In addition, they were clearly open to consideration of any concerns expressed by others in attendance. Again, I hope to confer with individual board members over the summer, and as always, please do not hesitate to contact me if I can be of any assistance. Thanks again, and take care for the next few weeks. Alan. I cannot take any question.
I didn't think that was an option, so we'll end it there, and thank you. And then don't go too far, because now you're next, the academic senate activity reports, and this is going to be a team effort on the part of Aaron and Curtis.
So how do we do this?
Oh, we're in charge?
Yeah.
We were going to do
Hold on a second.
Oh, yeah, sure,
And
sure.
this is Letitia Seneschal. She's our articulation officer, but all the acronyms here, it's the AO. If you hear AO, it's articulation officer.
So you'll remember a couple of months ago, I was asked as part of my report, like, really, the colleges don't have a common numbering system? Why don't they have a common numbering system? And my response to you was, it's complicated. So we thought we'd try to explain pieces of those complications and the conversations that we're having at both colleges. So what would it mean? Currently, both colleges were, well, Columbia came after Modesto, and when Columbia was established, it was established with a different numbering system than MJC. So we're almost using two different alphabets at this time. But, yeah.
So to go a little bit back, we're in an effort to sort of streamline the processes for students. We have a lot of initiatives in the books. And immediately from the board and from different people it says, why can't we make the trajectory for the students even easier by establishing sort of a common numbering system? And I like what Erin had to say. As we looked at it, we sort of figured, yeah, it's just about changing a number. It's no big deal. That, we can do it just like that. And as we started looking into it, the word she used, it's complicated. So.
But the benefits are pretty obvious to our students, that the students who are working back and forth between the two colleges, which we anticipate to increase as more courses are taught online, and as offerings at Oakdale increase, that we'll have more students going back and forth, and so a common numbering system would help them navigate back and forth. It would help transcript evaluations and review and analysis of those classes. So, like Curtis said, like, why don't we just do it? And it's a conversation we're having the past few years.
Yeah. Well, it goes a long way. I tried years ago to bring up the conversation of the common numbering system, and I encountered cultural resistance to the idea that there's a certain sort of independence, very fierce independence from each of the colleges, and taking those numbers would mean a loss of identity of some sort. Anything you want to say?
Not this time.
We're going.
Okay.
All right. So as we've been leading up to, it's a really big change. I actually met with our articulation officer and curriculum chair a few weeks ago, anticipating this, and after a 2 or 3 hour meeting, we kind of left with our heads dizzy and went, "Oh, this was even bigger than we thought." So without further ado, what does it really involve? Well, the classes that would be equivalent to colleges, they've got to be comparable both in the way they're designed, they're delivered. It's more than the numbers. Let's go into that a bit. Curtis.
And I'm not going to read this list. Just to let you know, we do have a presentation, and that we can make it very involved. But as you can take, just to start talking about that, we sort of have to assess and change all these different processes at the institution. And later we'll talk a little bit, in a second we'll talk a little bit about whether that's really a priority given all the other priorities we have at the institution, or is it an immediate priority, a desire, more than something that we need to do right now. So we have to change course numbering system, enrollment systems, course line records, degree certificates. All the approvals have to be resubmitted. So you're starting to get the idea that this thing of just changing a number is a sort of like a dominoes toppling. You knock one, and all of a sudden there's an effect that knocks a bunch of other dominoes along the way.
And one of the initial questions is, well, why doesn't just one college adopt the other college's numbering system? Like, then only one college has to do all this work. That's not the way it works, of course, because the way the state works and the way the colleges work, there has to be a unique number for each course. Stop me if I'm wrong. And there has to be a history of that. So there can't be, help me.
We have to look at each course independently and try to assess where there is an existing link or potential for matching and where there isn't. But then we have to reconcile all of the different approvals for both colleges in all the different systems across the state. We have to tie it back at the data systems and everything. So it's very important, but it's also incredibly elaborate to get it done.
And where I was going, we can't reuse numbers. That's one of the issues. So what it requires is, rather than one college adopting the other college's system, both colleges have to have an entirely new numbering system. All right. And what this is talking about is, in order to have those courses equivalent, there's all these pieces that have to be the same. So to give you just a couple examples of that, of current discrepancies in math at the two colleges.
Yeah, and in this case, we have the math faculty here. I'm afraid to talk about math. Can I, please? Okay.
Can I comment, Chris?
Yes.
These are two courses that we've had on the books for years as comparable. We had a list of equivalencies, and it said, oh, this is equivalent. And when we wanted to rush to implement them into data systems so it just would be automatic, Elizabeth up at Columbia was like, whoa, we've got to look at this because we have different unit values, et cetera. And so this is an example of a course that we've historically kind of said, oh, these courses are comparable. But when you really dig in, you see that they do sort of similar but different things in different ways. So sorry, I didn't want to.
No, that's, keep going.
Yeah, so we have units.
And this is...
Yeah. And prerequisite preparation. We might think, well, you know, if they get to the level of rigor we want in these courses, that's great. But if we look, they have different prerequisites in place. Well, we don't think so much about how prerequisites work beyond our local institution, but when you go to look at how they affect our articulation, University of California, Berkeley might want to see a specific prereq in place for our course, for our Modesto course, but we might be articulated at Columbia for this course at San Diego State in a different way. So these are all the trickle-down effects of this.
But let me ask a quick question. But if I were a student, I would get different instruction in the two courses?
Math faculty? This is if it articulates, the assumption is that they're equivalent in some way. But that's part of the issue of the conversation that needs to occur between the discipline faculty and each. What does this difference mean in terms of the actual teaching and depth and breadth of the course? And that's something we're going to get. The most difficult part here is that conversation that occurs, because I think both colleges have sort of developed independently from each other and sometimes have a different approach to how they see that discipline. I suspect they learn much the same ultimately, but it's those small differences that make sometimes the conversation somewhat difficult.
Okay.
Yeah, there. And I guess what we're talking about sometimes is we talk about apples and oranges. And if this is something that we're going to do, if something that we want to do, the first thing is to have a conversation, because the question is, what is the benefit to the student? And will the investment in time justify the number of students who are affected? We don't have number for students that would be affected by this equivalency. Is it 5? Is it 10? Is it 15? Is it worth mobilizing the whole institution, enormous expense in terms of human resources, especially in the conditions that we are now, sort of a labor debate, to achieve, what? So those are questions that need to be answered. And it both requires direction, but also time to implement, not something that we do overnight.
This one. I think it's good work. I think there's good outcomes that come from these disciplinary conversations. But I think we have precedent in the statewide CID discussions that have taken place. And CID is the Common Course Numbering System they've implemented for community colleges in the CSU. And those conversations can be intriguing, they can be rewarding, they can be contentious. So we have to be prepared that when faculty get together from two very different campus contexts, they might have some very intensive conversations. And so that's my concern, is this is not just about numbers. This is about the scope of the content.
Okay. I don't know if do we need to go through this? I think,
I think you've covered a lot of it.
it's the first time we've done this presentation, so you over-prepared.
It's not finished.
Yeah, and it's not finished anyway. The whole point is, let's go to the last slide. if we want to do this, let's gather the stakeholders, and it's what I already said. Let's analyze this to make sure that if we're investing time on this, that it's worth it, that it has meaning for the students, that it has meaning for the institution. I haven't talked to anyone, those even who push back, well, there's these issues, who say this is not a good idea. So I think everyone says, yes, this is a worthy goal. But given the number of initiatives that we have now, should we sit down and sort of plan, maybe at the next curricular cycle, which would be in 2023, that could be our goal for the year 2023, which is our next curricular cycle. MJCs, I'm not sure if you're matched with us, which would be a problem. Of course we're not in our curricular cycles. But we can talk and negotiate that, I think. And anything else?
What questions do you have?
Yes.
Well, you answered my question, which was how many students is this impacting? Although the presentation that you did up in Columbia, I mean, really, if it impacts one, it makes you feel for that one student. Looking down at Trustee Martin, I'm sure the counselors are going to be the ones that would be probably your go-to people to kind of give you an idea as they're guiding these students, and if they run into these problems, right, Lynn? They're probably going to have a good idea of what numbers we're looking at.
Yeah, and Letitia, because frankly, it's sort of our initial proposal is we need to look at equivalency,
Yeah.
which is a process that we have now, and I'm not sure there's a problem with the equivalency. In other words, how these two courses are matched, and yeah.
Well, if you consider our curriculum process, the Ed Code requires us to periodically review and update our curriculum. You guys approve those reports regularly. Equivalencies, we don't have anything in place. So for example, if two faculty got together in 1996 and said, we think these courses are comparable, they signed off and it went on the books and there it stayed. There's nothing that asks our faculty to get together periodically for our existing equivalencies to ensure that we haven't had curricular drift over time. But I think that with those alignments that have been loosely identified or have precedent, we can start there as sort of a logical place to kind of do a deep inquiry into where are the gaps, where are the problems. We don't have to ruffle everybody else's feathers and just look and see if those existing equivalencies might be a good starting place.
Well, not to oversimplify, but might it be a good starting point to start with the general education classes, like English 101 and English 1A? I mean, there's no, but like with the physiology, there's prerequisites and way different. So those are, but the general ed classes pretty much are set. Seems like.
I think we found some discrepancies in how they were placed and how they behaved. And for example, right now, MJC has English 100, which is kind of on the bleeding edge of innovation in the state. But that course is actually identified as comparable in the CID system, but there's one major technicality. It's not yet approved for the IGETC pattern. So some of those things that we might assume, oh, it's a no-brainer. We look deeper, like, whoa, that's a big problem. Yeah. So that's where, I mean, if anything, of working years in curriculum and articulation has taught me, it's always be cautious and conservative and really do your homework on every relationship that you build.
So sometimes it's not the content of the course, it's how it connects with other places as well.
Well, and do they still have the option of sending a message to a professor at a university and saying, we have this course, and would you accept that as an alternative so that when the student gets to your university, they don't have to take this same course over, even though we don't have it articulated? Do they still?
That is, but my counterpart at Fresno says the biggest domino that you want to have in place is articulation, and everything else is secondary. Ideally, we don't want students to have to walk through that process, but it is an option for them. They have the processes at that transfer institution.
Yeah. At least it's a domino, but if they don't have to take the same course twice, I think, yeah. Okay.
How about a question? This may be ridiculous, but coming from me, maybe not.
As I tell my students, there are no dumb questions.
Okay. If we're adding courses, so let's say Columbia wants to add a course or MJC wants to add a course, are we looking first to see if that course that we want to add is already being taught at either Columbia or MJC, and then we align them up? I'm getting shakes in the negative here.
Simple answer? No.
Could we?
Okay.
Could we take a look at that?
Yes. And that's where some districts have a district-wide curriculum committee. That's an option. We certainly in the Senate have worked together the last 2 years to communicate, and in fact, for the past 3 years, because it was with Wendy, we've communicated very closely on many of the like the hiring process. We worked on a district-wide hiring process that sort of safeguarded the independence of both Columbia and Modesto Junior College, and off and on we are talking about these things. This would be a major endeavor, though. This would be a big, big endeavor.
Any other questions for Curtis, Aaron, and the AO?
Yeah.
I just want to thank all of you for looking into this. I see this as very important because it will help our students. And not only in signing up classes, but really facilitate the transfer to the Cal State system. And that's what we are after. Additionally, I think it would also promote taking classes at both colleges. We do have students taking classes from both colleges, and if they run into an experience of this class is a different number over here, or a different unit value over here than the other one up there, that could be discouraging. So I just want to commend you for this work, and I certainly hope that this will continue. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move on now to the LTAC report.
Good evening again. We reviewed and updated evaluation guidelines with the Vice Chancellor of Human Resources, which will be sent out to the LTAC membership after additional review of the Executive Board. And that's all I have to report for this board meeting. Any questions?
No, other than I'm looking forward to the baking program, so.
Thank you.
Okay, and last but not least, the YFA report. Jim?
Thank you. I'm Jim Solomon, president of the Yosemite Faculty Association. I have a few items to report on tonight. First, the YFA's general faculty meeting was held on Friday, April 20th in Oakdale at the Community Center. The meeting was very well attended, and faculty enjoyed a potluck luncheon prior to the meeting. A variety of topics were discussed. Second, the district and YFA negotiating teams met for a full day of mediation on Monday, May 7th. A resolution has not been reached, but both negotiating teams have agreed to meet again on Wednesday, May 23rd. We anticipate another full day of mediation. As was explained to the faculty, the mediation process requires that both the YFA and the district teams maintain strict confidentiality of the mediation sessions. Some of YFA's leadership attended the spring 2018 CCCI conference in Sacramento. CCCI is our organization for the California Community College Independent Unions. And at this conference, there were a number of topics of discussion and updates regarding wine garden rights, which is obviously very important, union rights to information, due process, union representation rights during investigations, the duty to bargain, mandatory subjects of bargaining, which ironically, the legal counsel who spoke included a special section on districts who ignored the requirements to bargain both stipends and reassigned time, and where there appears to be a statewide pattern of this behavior, and the various stages of impasse. In short, although this conference was presented to 15 other independent member unions within CCCI, It certainly felt as though the conference was tailor-made to the YFA based upon our own experiences regarding all of these topics in this district. Finally, the YCCD's Office of Public Affairs sent 2 district-wide emails on April 18th and May 3rd. These 2 publicized statements have been posted to the district's website, and YFA has replied to both of them using the same distribution list that was used when that was sent to us, as well as posting our responses to the union's website. The YFA will continue to respond to any additional YCCD propaganda should the district choose to continue this course of action. And I would just follow here by saying that we've had, as you can tell tonight, some responses by faculty and students who have attended board meetings in February. Ironically, on Valentine's Day, so it was already a pretty busy day anyway. March, up at Columbia, last April, and again tonight. Faculty and students, not just words, not just concepts. These are people. These are dedicated, hardworking people, and the decisions made about class size and compensation and other issues affect all of these dedicated and hardworking people either taking classes or teaching classes. The YCCD summary of the story in its May 3rd email, I think was appropriately labeled because that was the best piece of fiction I've seen in a while. And like all good faculty, the YFA will continue to correct this fiction each and every time it's sent out. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. We'll move on now to item 5.3. Oh, pardon me. Does anyone have any questions for Jim Solomon?
Well, I actually did. I'm not sure. I would be interested, if you're willing to, and if you can, share the due process information that you got at that conference. I don't know what form it was in, but I mean, just to me personally, not during the meeting.
Okay, very good.
But is that possible, or, okay, thank you.
All right, thank you, Jim. Okay, moving on now to item 5.3, activities and announcements, Modesto Junior College. And Jennifer, I think, is going to fill in for President Stearns.
Good evening, Board. Chair Garrett, you mentioned earlier wanting us to partnership with the high school next door, and I'm really pleased to announce that at our CTE graduation, we honored some of the students who've been through our program, and there were over 20 students who stood on the stage. A couple of them have chosen to go into the military, into service. A couple of them are going out of state to four-year universities, but the vast majority of them are coming here to MJC to continue on as pirates. So I just wanted you to know that we are working hand in hand with our neighbors next door.
Thank you very much.
So to share what Dr. Stearns has said, first of all, we want to talk about our Disability Services Honors. Our Disability Services honored 4 outstanding students at the end of the 2018 end of the year celebration on April 6th. Recognized for their dedication and hard work were David Perry. He had the most persistent award. Chantel Johnson received the most resilient award. Sylvia Prado received the most motivational award. And Siegfried Dominic Gutensberger, he had the High Achiever Award. We're really proud about this next announcement. The Strong Workforce STARS initiative is new, and there are 3 criteria by which strong workforce programs are evaluated. And those criteria are 90% of your students or more need to have a job in their field of study. 50% or more of your students need to have an increase in living wage, and 70% or more of the students need to attain a regional living wage. So to get a gold star, you need to hit all 3 of those metrics. To hit a silver star, you hit 2 of them, and to get a bronze star, you hit 1. MJC is proud to announce that 19 of our CTE programs were awarded stars. Our ADN program received a gold star, which means that program is making significant difference for our students. We had 8 programs received silver stars and 10 programs received bronze stars. So we're really proud of the accomplishments that is happening in our CTE areas. The MJC Nursing Alumni Association is celebrating nurses in our community with the 11th annual fundraising dinner on Thursday, May 17th. A highlight of the event is recognizing and honoring outstanding nurses serving the local community and presentation of nursing scholarships. We have some theater presentations coming up. They're staging 4 seasons on May 10th, 11th, 12th, 17th, 18th, and 19th at 7 p.m. in the Cabaret West Theater, El Capitan Building on West Campus. These are written and directed by Professor Michael Lynch, and the 4 one-act plays include Rachel and Louise, A Widow's Guide to Auto Repair, Sleeping Bag, and Book of Glass. And coming up soon, all of you are invited to the MJC Foundation, and MJC Athletics are holding a 19th annual Pirates Fest beer, wine, and food celebration this Friday, May 12th, from 6 to 9 p.m. in the Mary Stuart Rogers Learning Center here on West Campus. This event features live music, silent auction, and it supports MJC's 21 athletic teams. You'll be proud to know that we had 6 students transfer to Division I schools, and they received a total of over $500,000 in scholarships.
6 students?
6 students.
500,000?
That's a lot of money, isn't it?
That's great.
So we should be really proud of our athletics programs, and let's support them. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. Any questions for Jennifer before she gets to the seat? Nope. All right. Thank you. Okay, we'll move on now to activities and announcements, Columbia College and Angela Fairchilds.
Good evening. I'll start with sharing something that is not in my written report, and that is that you heard a lot tonight about the work that we're doing with the prison and our inmate students. Well, this past month, we've just had our first 3 graduates from that student population. So we're going into our 3rd year of working with the prison and welcoming the formerly incarcerated into our number. And so I'm really proud of how that program has taken off and exploring the different ways that we can serve the students so that when they do return to public life, that they can build better lives for them and their families. So I wanted to be sure to point that out. You heard about the hospitality program tonight. I shared with you in my report a link to the apprenticeship program that was featured into the hospitality magazine for the apprenticeship programs in the newsletter that went out statewide. And want to remind you that May 24th, our foundation is going to have they're not calling it a retirement reception, but a president's reception to kind of say goodbye. And so I feel really honored. At that event, though, we're going to unveil, because we're reinstalling it, a plaque in the Manzanita Rotunda honoring Dusty Rhodes, who was the first president of Columbia College. And so that will be mounted in the hallway, and I'm going to have the honor of doing the unveiling of that as part of that event. And then at the end of the year picnic, which is our big celebration that I mentioned last month, we honored 4 faculty who attained tenure this year. And that's the largest number that we've celebrated in any year that I've been with the college. So it's Rob Hoyt, our head coach for basketball, volleyball, Lindsay Laney, who is our coordinator for academic achievement center, Kirsten Miller, who is a counselor, and Jim Redemeyer, who is our math instructor, one of our math instructors. He's a rock star. He teaches at the prison. They all love him. And Jim also was honored with a teaching excellence in teaching award by the Tuolumne County School Association this last month. That's my report.
Well, thank you, Angie. Any questions for President Fairchilds? Okay, we'll move on now to item 5.5, presentation and updates for Yosemite Community College District Chancellor, Chancellor Young.
Thank you. I want to begin by making a presentation. We had this on the board agenda last time, but we were not able to do it at that time, so we have it here again. And this is the Classified Employee of the Year Award. And this is a very important award. The Board of Governors, the State Chancellor's Office, and the Foundation of the California Community Colleges created the first annual Classified Employees of the Year Award in 2009. This award recognizes outstanding classified staff to the community college system. YCCD nominations were submitted to my office, and at the March meeting, the nominations were then submitted to the chancellor at the state level. And so, to cut a long story short, I am delighted, proud to announce the winner of the Classified Employee of the Year Award is Sherry Suarez. I'm going to ask her to come forward, and Chair Darren Garrett will make the presentation. No, maybe down here, and then we get a photo. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Our student trustee is not here this evening, but I also have an award to recognize his service, and I just want to at least show it to you. It's a beautiful piece of crystal, and I know he's really busy this days. I was hoping that he would be here so that we could present this award to him. So we will make sure that he receives it. In addition, we want to recognize several members ending their service in the district council. The district council is a very important vehicle in which all constituent groups are represented and all constituent groups participate in the governance process. So, first one is Angela Fairchilds. And I'm going to ask the chair to present the award to President Fairchilds. And then there's an award also for Aaron Nagel. Debbie Partridge is not here. And Jill Stearns is not here. But also want to announce that we have a classified school employee week plan. This will begin on May 22nd at various locations in the district. First one, it's at the Manzanita Staff Lounge at Columbia College from 3 to 5 p.m. Second one is at the Performing Media Arts Center at MJC East between 2 to 3 p.m. Also on May 22nd. On May 23rd, we have a special event for our custodial staff, MJC East Campus at 8 p.m. And then at 9:30 p.m., we have another event also for our custodial staff at the MJC West Campus. And to round it off, we'll have an event at the district office break room on May 24th from 10 to 11 a.m. You know, we want our classified staff to know that they're appreciated. And so this entire week, May, we are having these events to recognize them and to thank them. So I hope if you are able to please come and join the recognition event. I just want to report that I was also at the Columbia College commencement, and I'm trying to learn the culture of the district. I was told last year, the last commencement, the former chancellor was over at MJC, and so this year it's time for the chancellor to go up to Columbia. So I did. So next commencement, I will be at MJC. As has been previously mentioned, it was a very beautiful ceremony, very impressive. And I can see that that is a crowning achievement for many of our students and their families. And some have traveled a distance to be there. Also, you previously heard a question from Trustee Viss regarding a trip to Dubai by two of our administrators to explore the possibility of international education. I want to mention and share with you that we want to look at this arena and see it as an opportunity for revenue generation. Now, some other colleges have been doing this for a long time, and they have been able to add a lot of additional income, additional revenue generated by international education to the regular budget. What is there to stop us from looking at that opportunity, especially when both colleges have some great programs that have established themselves and are recognized for their quality and for the standards. I know that this is a new area for us, but you have heard me share it many times. I believe that we need to think out of the box. And here's an opportunity for us to think out of the box in revenue generation and at the same time participate in education at the global level. Now, just because we are in the Central Valley, it doesn't exclude us from being able to participate on a global level. So I want to thank Dr. Sanders and Dr. Tenbergen for their willingness to travel to Dubai at this time of the year in the summer. So, best wishes for success. I also want to mention that the leadership team, there's a retreat plan on July 23rd. So, and finally, just want to share with everyone that Central Services, has an event planned shortly. It's called the Central Services Spirit Award. This will be an opportunity for folks at Central Services to nominate individuals for recognition. The awards will be distributed to 2 classified members and 1 leadership team members within Central Services. So if you hear that being mentioned in the coming days, that's what the Spirit Award is for Central Services. Thank you. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Chancellor Young. Any questions for the Chancellor? All right. We'll move on now to item 5.6, the bond update.
Good evening, members of the board and Chancellor Young. Well, we're loading up here. Your packet included the information for the expenditure report and the schedule. So unless you have any specific questions on those, I was planning on going right into the presentation because there's been a lot of progress happening in the last couple of weeks. So I have good news. Okay. We did briefly insert a couple of slides showing the current projects that we're working on, both on the program management side and the construction management side. So even though the program is coming to an end, there's still a lot of things that are done even after construction is complete to close out the projects. So this is just a list for the both colleges and central services for PM services. And this one is for construction services. Next project is the parking lot Area 1 project, which is to the west of us. And if you noticed as you drove in tonight, it looks complete and we are scheduled to open on Monday. So they're finishing up the striping and the landscaping and so it's scheduled to open on Monday. So that's some good news. And here I just have the same layout. And then this is a view that was taken from the top of the building prior to the striping. So it's progressed a lot. Here's just an update on the painting projects. And we are in the notice of award phase for the Wawona, Miwok, and the dairy units. So hopefully in the next few weeks, we can get started on the painting of those buildings. Here's just a quick snapshot of the schematic design of the El Capitan building. And that project is in design right now. It was submitted to DSA today for review. The next slide shows potential future projects that you'll see on the Measure E budget revision worksheets. But those are the 2 potential projects that have been identified with the budgets. And we are pushing to get these projects completed this year. The parking lot 208, which is the El Capitan parking lot, is in the design phase. That actually went into DSA today. And then the agriculture storage, which is the ACE equipment facility, is in the programming phase. Here is the site plan for the Great Valley Nature Lab, formerly known as the Science Outdoor Education Project. And that one is actually out on the bid phase, and we will be receiving bids early June. The next project is the Juniper project up at Columbia College, and we are in the design phase of this project. And this project will convert the mathematics labs that are in the Juniper building into classrooms for the ITC and the entrepreneurship programs. And basically, it's just an upgrade to the existing building for flooring, painting, ceiling tile, and data for the function of the ITC. With that, if you have any questions, I can.
I have some questions. Am I correct that you're doing these presentations every other month?
Every quarter.
Oh, really? So just once every 3 months? I have learned from sort of a friend, a volunteer, that there are some big leaks in our most expensive project in the science building, that there have been some water leaks that have caused some damage in that. So a lot of times we hear about all the nice stuff, but we have to be fully informed, and so that we need to know what's going on. Are you unaware that there are some water leaks?
It was brought to our attention, so we are in the process of working on that and performing the research on the fix, the appropriate fix for that.
Okay, so that's fine. But what I'm asking is that in your next presentation, bring us up to date on maybe the things that aren't so glamorous, but you know, this is like a $60 million building. I think as a board member, I need to know. So is that possible to do?
Yes, that's possible.
Are other board members interested in that?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, thanks. Thank you for that.
Thank you very much. Any other questions? Okay, thank you so much. We'll move on now to the item 6, action items consent agenda. And I'll first ask, does any board member wish to pull any item off the consent agenda? Okay. I just have one comment, but I don't want to pull anything. So I'll entertain a motion and then I'll make my comment.
Well, there's a change.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, before we entertain a motion, one thing that is required to be reported out is the salary on item 6.9, the personnel appointment. And for your consideration this evening is the appointment of Dr. Shantanu Bandyopadhyay as the next president of Columbia College, leaving some big shoes to fill there. And he will be appointed on the, pending your approval, the executive salary schedule rank E4, step B for $207,114 annually. So that's noted in the record. And the second change is that on that executive salary schedule, there is a rounding correction. It is on rank E1, step D, should read 172,895 in place of the 6. And so as this was a draft pending board approval, we'll have that correction and then get it posted to the website as required. And that's all I had.
Okay, thank you.
But also, I'm not positive on this, but the board received this memorandum that 2 of the pages in the EEO multiple measures certification apparently had errors, or Graciela, maybe, aren't we putting this in instead of what's here?
Sorry, it had a link that was broken, so we removed the link from the printed copy, correct?
Yeah. So no change needed.
No substantive change to the content. There was just a broken web link.
And what was provided to the public on board docs was correct. It was just, since the board requests printed copies.
Thank you.
The correction.
Okay, so with that announcement and the correction for the record, is there a motion and a second? Okay, motion by trustee Rojas. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by trustee Martin. Any further comments? I would just like to say that, I think it's great that at this district we embrace diversity. We have here this evening the only Asian chancellor, college chancellor in the United States, from my understanding. We now, with the appointment of our Columbia College president, we have our first Asian Indian president, so we clearly demonstrate diversity in our district. It's particularly noteworthy to myself, having a grandfather who was born in India. So I think this is great for us, and it's going to bring a lot to our college community. So with that, no further comments. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carried. And I think now we move on to action items, 7.1, quarterly report on the district's financial condition. I'll turn that over to our Vice Chancellor of Fiscal Services.
Good evening, Chairman, Vice Chancellor, and trustees, or excuse me, Chancellor and trustees. We have before you the quarterly 311Q for your discussion and approval. This report is required by the state for our financial reporting. So the report's a little bit detailed, and I'm going to, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Got it. Okay, we'll do this. There we go. Now you can hear me? Okay.
That's much better.
Okay, sorry about that. Scary. Okay, so I'll try to give you a high-level summary so we don't have to take forever doing this. So the top part of the report gives you the district's actual revenue, expenditure, and fund balances since 2014, along with the projected amounts for 2017-18. And on that, I'll just comment that we are expecting to spend to budget for 2017-18. In section 2, it shows the annualized attendance, FTES, and we are expecting to make our target of 16,542 FTES for this fiscal year. In section 3, it shows that we have a strong cash balance at $23.3 million. In section 4, it just shows where we are in terms of revenues and expenditures in the context of the entire fiscal year. So we're, in terms of revenues, we are at 67.5%, and if you're expecting to see 75%, that can seem a little low, but this is not unusual for this time of the year. It's just due to the apportionment and lottery receipts, so we are not concerned. Expenditures are at 73.6%, so we're a little low, and we may see budget savings, but my experience has told me not to count your budget savings before they actually happen, and so that means after the books are closed. So in sections 5 and 6, they ask you questions about have we settled any contract negotiations or debt agreements, entered into any debt agreements during this quarter, and our answer is no. On section 7, the question is about for this quarter, does the district have significant fiscal problems that must be addressed for this year or next year? And for this quarter, we've actually answered yes, pertaining to next year, and that's only because they don't have a maybe. How am I supposed to know? You haven't provided us any information, state, or possibly, who knows? So they don't have any other answers except for yes or no. So for this time, because of the uncertainty introduced by the proposed new funding formula, which may have a negative impact on the district's fiscal outlook, we have said yes. Until the details of that funding formula are finalized, the magnitude, if any, of the impact is unknown, And so the original simulation did show that the district is on not a beneficiary, if you will, of the proposed funding formula, but that certainly has been subject to change in our understanding as they've been running multiple simulations. So we will know more, and if, that situation changes, we will go back to, saying no. But for right now, I was not comfortable with saying yes when there's just too much unknown out there. So the last page, we provide a summary sheet that just gives you a little bit more detail in a more comprehensible fashion, I think. There's not too much to comment on it other than for other revenue, we did receive $184,000 in 2015-16 one-time general apportionment funds this quarter, as well as $72,000 in RDS subsidy, which is the prescription reimbursement. In looking at expenditures, you might note that expenditures are a little over 75% at MJC, and that could simply be a matter of the primary terms are heavier in terms of full-time faculty, and then the summer months are virtually nil in full-time faculty. So we are certainly monitoring the fourth quarter, but we're not unduly concerned. And then, and last, when you look at the transfers out savings, that is a bit of a contingency line item, and it is still holding, the district has not settled with the YFA, and so it is still holding that amount attributable with that agreement for current year. So with that, I think that's all that I have to share with you on that, unless you have any questions.
Are there any questions for Vice Chancellor Yeager? Okay. The procedure is now that we will conduct a public hearing. So I will now open the public hearing. Anyone wishing to comment on the quarterly report on the district's financial condition? Okay, seeing no one, we'll now close the public hearing and bring it back to the board. The board will accept the report and then direct staff to submit a copy of the required report to the California Community College's Chancellor's Office. So with that, I'll entertain a motion. So moved by Trustee Viss. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Trustee Beggs. Any further comments, questions? Seeing or hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. We'll now move on to item 7.2, Modesto Junior College Measure E proposed budget adjustments.
So before you is an adjustment to the Measure E budgets. If you have questions, we have Maria Oteo from Kitchell here to answer.
How about just highlighting, it appears that there are just a couple of things that are changing. An explanation of why parking lot 208, which I have no idea where that is, was so highly budgeted and now it's revised.
We did provide the document with highlights, so I do apologize if the.
No, well, I have the document.
Okay.
And in looking, second from the bottom, I mean, just explain why we're having to change the allocation.
There were some significant savings in the West Campus Loop Road projects, roads number 3, 4, 5, and 6. So those savings were moved to the college contingency, and working with President Stearns, there was a list of projects that they had as priority, and
Parking lot 208 was one of them.
parking lot 208, which is the El Capitan parking lot, was on the list, and so that was placed on as a new project
Okay,
to be funded.
that's what I wondered. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Okay, thank you. Any other questions, comments? Bring it back now to the board to approve the revised Modesto Junior College Measure E bond project budget adjustments as attached to the May 9, 2018 agenda. Is there a motion? Is that a motion made? Motion by Abe Rojas. Is there a second? Second by Trustee Viss. Any further comments or questions? Seeing or hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carried. We'll now go to item 7.3, Board Policy First Reading, and I'll turn this over to Trustee DeMartini.
Well, actually, thank you, and I'll turn it over to Connie Chavez.
All right.
Good evening, Board, Chancellor, Cabinet. It's been a couple of months. I'm glad to be back here before you, and thank you so much for Trustee DeMartini taking over the last couple of months and giving out the report. So on to our first readings. We have lots to report. You received some changes from our Monday Board Policy Committee meeting. Let me just go over those really quickly. So we'll start with 2015. There were no changes there, but if you have any comments, I'm happy to receive those. Go on to 4020, Program and Curriculum Development. We did have some changes, so as always, we provide those to you in red so you can really quickly identify those. On page 1, we're removing on line 24 the word appropriate, and we're clarifying by cross-referencing or adding in a reference to policy 7-8049 academic senates. We provided that to you, the 7-8049 academic senates policy as well, so that you can have a look at that. No changes were requested to that one, just information only. On that same page, line 29, there is a recommendation through the constituent review process to remove "and technical" from career and technical education. And I need to source where that comes from. So I did take a look really quickly and couldn't find the source. So over the next month, I'm going to find that source. And the board policy committee said, you know, if we can't find that source, if there's no good reason to remove it, let's keep it in. So you may see that recommendation next month. Okay, going on to page 2, we on line 7, we added "of trustees" for consistency, and then we added in that cross-reference to that same academic senate board policy. And that is all for that one. Any other comments on that one?
Any comments, suggestions, questions for Connie? Okay, it is just a first reading, so. All right, thank you, Connie.
All right, I think we're going on to some more. Is that
Uh-huh, yep,
okay? I know. There's a few more.
warmed up, all
I
right.
know, we're just getting warmed up here. Okay, 4105, distance education. Question from the committee was, what are we doing right now? So I asked that question to both colleges, and both colleges provided me with their ICER statements. We had this in the accreditation report, and I'll read the one from MJC. They're both very similar. All online faculty are trained in the requirements to verify that the actual student is participating in course activities and earning credit. At a minimum, verification involves a secure login and password. So we talked about that at the Board Policy Committee. Issued by the college and sent to the student via his or her official student email address. The training covers additional authentication methods such as video conferencing, photo identification, and others. In short, the faculty are trained on their responsibility to ensure that the student of record is completing their coursework. And additionally, not part of the ICER, but just additional information at MJC, in the ICER, a link is given to the syllabus used for MJC's online teacher training course as evidence for the training. So what they're doing right now, secure login and password given to their email, and then instructors, faculty members are being trained in all those things, video, identification, things that we had also talked about at the Board Policy Committee. Okay? So that is what we are doing right now to verify students are who they say they are. So that is all for distance education. Okay, moving on to 4240, academic renewal. So we had a question on the board policy, line 7. What is substandard in terms of a grade? And so this is talking about really academic renewal, in a larger context, but we also talked about what does that mean in a substandard grade. For example, if there was a nursing student who got a B, is that considered substandard because that may not be what's needed to get that student into a competitive nursing program? So we added a few references here. Now, what I need you to understand, though, is that these references won't be added until you actually consider these board policies, which are not, they're going to be coming to you over the summer. So while I have them here and I provided them to the board policy committee to give them the specific definition of what can be repeated, what's a substandard grade that can be repeated, which is less than a C. We won't be adding these cross-references until they're considered, and if approved by the board, there'll be non-substantive changes. We can go back and add these cross-references. So I believe that we'll be talking about this in June at the Board Policy Committee, perhaps adding a statement that is similar to 4225, which talks about what courses can be repeated for a substandard grade, which is less than a C, or excuse me, which is less than a C or a W.
Connie, could I mention to the rest of the trustees the reason that the policy committee asked about this? Because when it came to us, it just said substandard academic performance. And in our study session earlier last month, we learned that the nursing program is entirely merit-based. And it's highly conceivable that a potential nurse candidate might have gotten a B and determined that to be substandard, and we asked if that person could repeat the course. And Connie has done the research to define substandard, which is less than a C. It wasn't clear. We want to make these as clear and concrete as possible.
And currently, you don't have a board policy on it, but like I said, over the summer, you'll be entertaining one 4225 that gives that, and so we might just be able to bring that definition over. Okay. And with nothing else on that one, we'll go on to 4250. So each year, the CCLC gives us legal updates in April and in October. We have just received legal update, April 24th. So that was very, very recent. So we've added, made a few changes based on that. So first I'll go over page 1, line 13. It was requested that when we use abbreviations like W or I, NC, that we, in their first appearance on the page, that we go ahead and spell those out. So we did that. Also on line 26, you'll see the abbreviation for cumulative there. Second page, we are deleting that cross-reference for 4255. That is not a board policy, so we're taking that out. And made some changes to the references. Now getting on to the administrative procedure, just a quick typo there on 26. We need a strike through on the A. And then we got into more dialogue. Line 29, why was that removed was the question. A student who's not on academic probation and earns a semester, those two lines. Well, so I sourced that, went back and talked to some folks, and it just doesn't appear to be in the right place. So there was no reason to strike it out other than it appears to not be in the right place. So the recommendation would be to move that out of the header notification and move it down to standards for dismissal. So we can talk about that in June as well at the board policy committee meeting. And then on line 39, we've changed the standards for dismissal of a GPA of less than 2.0 to 1.75. So we've changed that throughout the document, and this place was missed. So we'll go ahead and make that change. And then on page 4, just a couple, you see those in red, counseling, and we needed to strike those through. And then on line 43, for consistency and titles, we went ahead and strike that as well. Then on page 5, question came up in line, starting on line 15, these codes. What are these codes? Are these abbreviations? And really they're computer codes, and so we have a really pretty clear description off to the right of them. So recommendation was just add the word computer to codes. So we'll do that to make it more clear.
And I'd make one more tiny suggestion right on that spot, is after you have computer codes, description should be moved over to align with the description. Yeah.
Formatted over a little bit to the right. I got that. Okay. Next page. So this is a conversation that we had starting on line 12.